Welcome back to the channel. This is Zero Missing. Hope you guys enjoyed today's story. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We do horror stories, murder mysteries, unsolved mysteries, and kind of just strange happenings. So really enjoy you guys being here. Today we've got a story about a mysterious death, a Ouija board, and the fact the police didn't investigate until after a year after the girl they knew had died. We'll find out more right after this. Alright guys, so today's story, before we get into the story itself, I want to give you guys some background on the item that kind of started the whole thing. This story really kind of got going based on a Ouija board. Depending on how you view Ouija boards, some believe that it is a way to talk to the spirit world where you can talk to a past loved one. Some believe that it is only capable of talking to evil spirits, and that those spirits are the ones that are deceptive. Ouija boards kind of got their start in the 1800s. People would routinely hold seances. It was not an uncommon practice to try and talk with people on the other side. It was so prevalent back in older times that even Mary Lincoln Todd, yes, that Mary Todd Lincoln, held a seance in the White House to try and contact her young son who had died. So it was not that uncommon then. Now in the 1960s, the Ouija board became so popular that it actually outsold Monopoly. So, and Monopoly has been a #1 seller many years back in those days. So I mean, it's been around quite a bit. It really wasn't until about 1971 when the novel The Exorcist came out that it really started to gain this reputation for being something bad. Since then, it's really kind of been attached to kind of the counterculture of what's really popular for Ouija boards. The counterculture really kind of latched onto it, and it has since been linked to the occult. Many Christian churches are adamantly against these things. I personally get creeped out by them. I don't want to be around a Ouija board. I'm terrified of them. They scare me to death. I won't be in the same house as one if I know it's there. So for me, I try to stay away. So now I'm going to give you the story here. This is a true story out of Spain. It happened in around 1991. Estefania Gutierrez was at school trying to help out a friend. They were having a seance at school to try and contact her friend's boyfriend who had just passed away from a motorcycle wreck. In the process of this seance, though, they were interrupted by a teacher. Some reports it's a nun, some say it's not, but for the story purposes, it being a nun sounds kind of intense. And if there was is a stigmatism attached to it because of religion, you can understand why a nun would interrupt this process. Now, the story goes that the nun took the Ouija board, broke it in half, and her friends reported that they saw a strange smoke enter Estefania's mouth and nose. Some people believe that was her that was her being possessed by whatever was in the board. How do you really balance that out? I mean, that's what they reported. Now, things for Estefania became very strange over the next several months. So, over the next 6 months, she would randomly go into a rage. She would bark at her brothers. She would claim she was seeing evil shadows walking past her at night. Obviously her parents are concerned. They had this incident at school. She was playing with Ouija board. Now we've got this going on, and they couldn't really put a fine point to what the problem was. So they did what every reasonable parent would do. They took her to a doctor. The doctors tested her, checked her, psychologists looked at her, and they really couldn't find anything wrong. So it was really, the Gutierrez were just kind of living with this, not really having a solid answer. They didn't know whether this was legitimate. They had nothing really. It's just they kind of had to deal with the problem. Except this didn't go on for very long. A few months later, they found Estefania in her bedroom, dead. There's no cause as to why. There's no foul play suspected. The police report didn't list any homicide suspects. They just found her in her room, dead, with no reason. Now, that's terrifying in and of itself, but there's way more to this story. And it's really the things that happened after this young lady passed away that makes things even more chilling. You would think that since the person who was possessed passed, that this would all stop. Well, that's not what happened. As a matter of fact, things got worse. They got much worse. From then on, the parents and that house were essentially haunted. Every day they'd see or hear dark, ominous figures stomping through the home, slamming doors, appliances cutting off and on, mysterious whispers coming out of nowhere. They tried to deal with it, live with it. I mean, this was obviously very scary, but they had been living with what had been going on with their daughter for so long, they were a little bit desensitized. Now, from personal experience, I can tell you that whenever you are involved in a situation that is just kind of overwhelming your senses, your brain has a safety mechanism. It tries to tell you, hey, everything's okay. You didn't hear what you hear. Everything's fine. That's really no big deal. But then there's a part of you that's like, no, I saw that. That was real. But after you get so desensitized to it, it becomes easier to live with. One of these cases that was kind of eye-opening for Mrs. Gutierrez was she said that she felt a pressure. These were her words. I felt pressure on top of me, but there was no one around. I said to my husband, there's someone here. Then I felt a pair of hands grab my feet and then grab my hand, which were uncovered by the blanket. This was getting worse and worse and worse. They really didn't know what to do at this point. The family claims that their daughter's photograph burst into flame on its own right after her death. They maintain that it fell off of an end table and simply began to smolder for no reason, nothing around it, no fire. And when the picture ignited, Mr. and Mrs. Gutierrez knew they needed to contact authorities. This happened roughly a year after she passed away. The police actually didn't really conduct an investigation until over a year after that Estefania had passed away. Now, the police report that the entire apartment was a wreck. It was a mess. There was stuff everywhere. Not that it was trashy, it was just wrecked. So if you've seen some of these paranormal television shows where you walk in and all of a sudden all the doors to the kitchen cabinets are open, stuff is moving around, plates everywhere, that's what they were experiencing. And they noted that Estefania's room was in particularly bad. Now, the parents had actually left all of Estefania's decorations intact on the wall, the way she had it, the bed, everything was still there. But many of the posters had been clawed at, according to police, by some kind of creature. According to the Gutierrez, anyone who went into their girl's room was subject to be pushed around by an unseen force. Not just pushed around. They reported that there was numerous happenings throughout the home, happened all the time, and they were just at their wits' end with this. Reportedly, the police officers also witnessed a crucifix on Estefania's wall move on its own until it snapped. Police investigated the household and reportedly witnessed an array of paranormal activity. As a result, it is believed that the officers on site experienced unexplainable occurrences. They saw a mysterious substance stick to the furniture that appeared to be of a brownish red in color And while they were conducting this investigation, they're standing there looking at this chair, looking at this stain, and then it starts to spread all over the chair. The police also reported to hear a loud banging noise coming from an unoccupied area of the home. They went in there, they hear this loud noise, they go in the other room, there's nobody in there, they know where everybody in the house is. Where did this noise come from? They have no answer. After that, they reported how a perfectly, and this is their words, perfectly closed armoire became opened in a sudden and totally unnatural way. This is the only police case I can find anywhere that this is the official statement, is that there was paranormal activity. This happened in 1992, 93. So for the police report of Spain to come out and actually say this house is haunted, essentially. So their recommendation to the Gutierrez family was, you need to move out. So at that point, the family, they get their things together, they leave a lot of things behind for obvious reasons, and they move to a new home. After this, everything completely stops. Somebody new moves into the house, and apparently there was no more problems whatsoever. So, well, there you go. The Ouija board experience of Estefania Gutierrez, which, by the way, they made a Netflix show, Veronica, but they did take some artistic license to it. But this is the real account. This is the real story. This actually happened. I just thought it was really interesting. So if you guys get an opportunity to hit like and subscribe, I would much appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys being here. We'll have another video up soon. You guys have a great day. We'll see you soon.